friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, a copyrighted edition for our video channel. This is a flag somebody gave me. It's an awesome looking one. And kind of sums everything up. So I appreciate you hanging out. And I'm still trying to play with the format here of the program. A couple of times I started the video out right away. Okay, we're going to get right into the details of what happened, who I'm missing, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of you said, you know, Dave, I kind of like the beginning where you kind of get into it a little bit. So we're still playing with it. But there's a couple things that I got this week that I had to talk about. I got this really nice letter. Hey, Dave, I started listening to you from your first night on Coast to Coast. No joke. That was a while ago. You had an honesty in your voice. Long by I saw a picture of you, and that's when I did. It really rocked me by your similar features to my older brother, Chuck. Not the best pic of him, but here's my mother from Jane, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to ID the person. Of course, I am subsidized to all things DP. I especially like the UFO connection. Best wishes to you, Angie, EP, and Huck, Jim, and Julie. Number 1 and 2 fans, Marietta, Georgia. Thank you for sending that. That was super nice. And I appreciate the fine thoughts. Another person sent me 4 pair of merino hiking socks. All different flavors, colors. Well, they know, and you know, they will get a lot of use this summer. And in fact, we're sitting down trying to get our summer all squared away. Now, if you don't watch my summation of Skinwalker Ranch every week, then you missed out on a huge announcement. Huge. So, there's a small city in Utah. It's having a conference. It's called Vernal, V-E-R-N-A-L, Utah. It's having a conference called Phenomicon. This county, even though it's in a super rural area of Utah, about 2 hours plus, and that would be east of Salt Lake City, they have a phenomenal conference facility and holds 1,000 people. I got a call the other day from the conference organizer saying, hey, Dave, we want you to be there. Okay, so I always do my due diligence, you know, who's putting it on, how many years has the conference been on, who are the other speakers, blah, blah, blah. After I heard, I went, what? Yeah. Well, we're proposing that you go on and you speak for an hour and a half on Friday and an hour and a half on Saturday. And I said, okay, I can do that. And they said, because I usually don't talk 2 times in a conference, but I said I'd do it. And why would Dave say that? Well, I'll tell you why. So here's the website for the conference. September 4th through the 7th, Vernal, Utah. Now, let's see if I can get the speakers list to come up. So the master of ceremonies is this guy named Greg Lawson. Then the number 2 guy on there is Nick Pope, who used to work for the Department of Defense in the UK. And then look who's number 3. Da-da-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Oh, but that's not the best part. Yeah, I agree. I'm okay, but who would Dave really want to be right before? Travis Taylor from Skinwalker Ranch. He's right behind me. Oh boy, this is going to be a treat. And then Mariah Mayer from Expedition Bigfoot and her partner and Ancient Aliens and Skinwalker Ranch, Thomas Winterton, Eric Bard. Now there's really the guy I'd like to sit down and have dinner with. He's super smart. And Caleb and Dragon. Now, what other kind of conference would they want to go to? Come on. So they said, well, yeah, we want you to talk about Bigfoot one day and missing 411 the next day. I said, sure. So we're going to fly down there, and land in Salt Lake, rent a car, drive up there, do the conference. The conference goes, I think, for 4 days. I said I'd be there for Friday and Saturday. I can guarantee you, to you, this is going to be one of Dave's best presentations all time. Because I don't want to be embarrassed by Caleb and Travis and Eric. And no, I better not be embarrassed. I better be having my stuff together that day. So I'm pretty jazzed about that. And Salt Lake's kind of in the middle of the U.S. Yeah. Angie knows, that's one of the few times I've seen you actually get excited about going to a conference. I go, well, what do you think? She goes, no, I understand. Okay. So now you know the big secret. It's out. I hope I see you at one of these conferences coming up. And don't forget about the Bigfoot Alaska cruise that's coming up. All you have to do is do Bigfoot Alaska cruise. Google it, Yahoo it, it'll come up. And myself and Dr. Jeff Meldrum are going to be speaking at that. And that's a cruise, leaves Seattle, goes into Alaska. So the case today. When I first saw it, it reminded me so much of other cases out of Minnesota. And you're going to quickly see why. First of all, what does Minnesota have a lot of? 10,000 lakes, ponds, etc. Lots and lots of water. What has Dave always said about water? Well, that's one of the key points on most of the missing 411 cases. They're related somehow to water. Now this man, his name was Wade Andrew Gordon Jr. He's 39 years old. Went missing July 7th, 2023, less than a year ago, at 1:27 a.m. Now he lived in Rochester, Minnesota with his common law wife. They'd had a relationship for 15 years. They had 5 kids, Tiffany Rivas. And the couple owned their home in Rochester. Now, Wade was employed by a company called Ornua Industries, kind of just outside the city of Byron, which is just outside of the city of Rochester. Now, I looked up Ornua Industries, and it said that they formulate and manufacture a complete line of pasteurized and processed cheese products. Said that they deliver functional and nutritional cheese-based solutions for manufacturers. It's a big manufacturing facility that went 24/7. And Wade was on the overnight shift. That's a nice way of saying, in my old terms, you're working graveyard. Graveyard usually went from 10 in the morning, 10 at night till 6 in the morning, 11 at night till 7 in the morning, midnight to 8, etc. So he had that shift. On July 6th, Wade left his home and drove his 2005 Chevy Suburban from that shared residence with Tiffany to Ornua Industries and hit a time clock and checked in for work. On July 7th, Tiffany showed that at 12:30, she got a text from Wade while he was working inside the facility. Now, the first question, obvious, is going to be, Dave, what was the communication? Well, I wish I knew. They never released it. So, but the point was that contact was made. He obviously was on the phone, and he was alive at 12:30 in the morning on July 7th. Now, less than an hour later, 57 minutes later, at 1:27 a.m., Ornula has closed circuit televisions all around the facility, as almost all industrial locations have today. And one of those cameras caught Wade coming out of the building at 1:27 a.m. Now you have two kinds of cameras at a building. You have a camera that looks at the door as it opens and the people coming out so you can see what's in their hands. They have other cameras that look the other direction to see what vehicle you go into and which direction you go so they can identify the vehicle. Well, they catch him on a camera coming out, perfect picture, it's ID'd as him. No doubt he's walking out of the building at 1:27. And then he's seen on another camera walking east on a street called Northwest Vole Drive. And that's the main, it's like a 2-lane highway between Ornula and downtown Byron, Minnesota, about 2 miles away. In that area where the factory is, thick, lush woods. Woods, I mean huge bushes, some trees. It's wild, swampy. It's Minnesota. Now, Wade never came back to work that night. He just vanished. And he left his car behind. At 9 o'clock, when Tiffany should have seen Wade, he hadn't come home. Now, let me stop there for a second, because I got to find a way to say this. Wade had brushes with the law in the past. So I don't want to understand or get into Tiffany's mind, but knowing that, she didn't call the police all that day. And she waited until early in the morning on July 8th, when Wade should have been going back to work and he didn't. Tiffany calls the Rochester police, where the couple live, and she explains the facts up to that point as best she knew them. She added that Wade would never, ever go a day without talking to his kids. She said, he'd go a day without talking to me, but not without talking to the kids. And it's completely outside the bounds of who he is. Pretty strong words. Police officer takes that seriously. So what they're thinking is, why would he leave the building? So let's go back and find out what's going on at the building. Was there violence? Did he have a fight? Something. What's happening? What would cause him to leave and go out on a big road just walking? So this is the wanted poster that went out for Wade. Now, Rochester police had the primary part of the case, even though he disappeared in county jurisdiction. Because he lived in the city of Rochester, they took the missing person report. So Ornula was in Olmsted County, Minnesota. So Olmsted County and Olmsted County and Rochester were working together to try to see what kind of resolution they could get. The police take the report. And then they said, well, last place he was at was Ornula, so they go there. Right away they find his Suburban. They were able to get into it. And his wallet, his keys, and his cell phone aren't there. They aren't at his workstation. They're gone. With him, supposedly. But sometime after he left the facility, the phone either went dead or got turned off. So the police went to the Ornula lot, found the car, checked it out, checked with Ornula, confirmed he hadn't been to work that morning, confirmed he hasn't been at work since after 1:27 a.m. on July 7th. And then that's when they found this closed circuit TV picture of him coming out of the building. Nobody else was with him. He wasn't injured looking. Just looked like he was walking out. At that point, the sheriff decides that he's got to search. So he does a search. and they go up and down the roadway, bring in some canines, brought a plane over, searched the water, swampy, outdoor area, fly all the way to Byron, fly around Byron, don't see anything, nothing unusual, nothing's reported. They're just they're hitting a dead end. Canines didn't follow a scent that led to a body, nothing. Now at this point, the police, I'm sure, aren't quite knowing what to think because of who Wade was, a hard worker, wouldn't stop talking to his kids, and what they have in front of them. Nothing. But he didn't have a vehicle other than the one he left at the location. So canines pick up nothing, planes see nothing. The incident happened, I'm going to show you a map. This is Byron City Hall right here. And this is Ornua Industries right here. So, and all of this is a wooded area, all the screen. So all he does is he goes down to the road and he starts walking this direction. Now it's about 2.8 miles from point to point if you walk it. If you drive it, you're there easily in 6 minutes. Kind of a lonely area to get lost in. The disappearance made big news in local TV and paper. It didn't make any sense. They interviewed Tiffany. She would say blatantly that we think it's foul play for some reason. They don't know why. But the sheriff said right at the beginning that they didn't see any violence. They didn't see anybody following them. They found out in the factory that there was no big incident inside that night. There was nothing to instigate him leaving the building. The sheriff requested assistance from the community. They had heard or seen anything. The entire area in the city of Byron was searched in car, by air, nothing. And they were left with a dead end. Family says it's foul play. Sheriff says there's no evidence. There's no body. There's nobody talking. They have nothing. And this is a hard place because when you're the sheriff and it happened in your jurisdiction, how much searching is enough? Well, it's never enough if somebody's not found. And the victims' families will sometimes push the search organization incessantly. But he's reported missing on July 8th. He really went missing on July 7th. So July 17th, 10 days after he technically went missing. This is a biggie. The Olmsted County Sheriff had no leads at the beginning of the day on July 17th. Nothing. And the Rochester police had nothing. But late that morning, Olmsted County Sheriff gets a call from a concerned citizen. And they say that they live near Byron City Hall. And they stated that they heard a strange noise on the night of July 7th, the night that Wade disappeared. Now, what I just told you is the only thing that's been released about that descriptor involving the noise. I checked like 12 sources because I'm thinking this is critical. What did they hear? A scream, a yell, a door closing? What did they hear? A strange noise. Okay. And they said it was something that they hadn't heard in that area before. And they made it clear that they wanted the sheriff to go over and check out that area behind City Hall. Okay. So dispatchers give the call to 2 deputies. They drive over there. And kind of behind City Hall, at the back end, there's a lawn, finely cut lawn, And then past the lawn, there's very thick growth of grass and then a small retention pond in the middle of the grass. Deputies are walking around and they start to go into the grass. They see a body. And it was in between the short cut grass and the water. Several articles stated incorrectly his body was found in water. It was not. It was found on the fringe of the water in the thick grass. And that's important to me. So the deputies call the medical examiner. The medical examiner comes over, retrieves the body. And on July 18th, the medical examiner stated that the body belonged to Wade. They immediately stated that there were no obvious signs of violence. And then they said that they'd send the body for autopsy. Okay. So that's July 18th. By August 18th, August 25th at the latest, you should have a complete autopsy report and a chemical analysis returns. Usually takes 30 days. But they go through July, August, September, October 10th, there's finally a release of information about the autopsy. Now, friends, trust me about this. Local reports for local consumption. Tiffany was making a big stink because she thought it was violence. It's her significant other and father of her 5 kids. I'm glad somebody's making a stink about it. And when somebody takes that long to come up with an autopsy result, my head's flying every which way. What are they making up? What are they thinking? Life isn't that hard. Well, they put wording in this report I've never seen in any report in my life. Here's the statement. Autopsy, the Southeast Regional Medical Examiners released a press release. Here's what it said. Autopsy was limited in providing details surrounding Mr. Gordon's death due to his condition. They're referring to the body's condition. Go back to the quote. At the conclusion of the investigation, no foul play is suspected. The investigation is closed. Undetermined cause of death. What is that? What is that? You gotta be kidding me. Where's humans' nature's inquisitive ways to find out what happened? You just close the book, okay, bye, he's done? You kidding me? They don't release what he was or wasn't wearing. They don't release what was in his stomach. And they don't release the date or the time of death. All pretty important items. What if he didn't die on July 7th or 8th? What if he didn't die until 2 days before they found the body? Remember, they flew over the city and they searched the city. They didn't see anything around that pond. So the maximum Wade could have been dead was approximately 10 days. Because that's the time between when he disappeared and when he was found. But the way this is written, the implication is that his body was so decomposed they couldn't figure out a cause of death. Baloney. Absolute, complete bull. I've known coroners that have had bodies that have been sitting out in the same sort of weather on a July in Minnesota. Come on, man. I read that and I was mad. He wasn't found in the water, found on the fringe of water. 39 years old. He wasn't old. Now remember, he's found right outside of City Hall. You mean to tell me that if that body was so badly decomposed, the whole City Hall didn't smell it? Huh? And there was no notation by the deputies that they smelled the body when it came up. Why is that important? Because that's a state of decomposition. If, as the coroner implies, that the body was so decomposed, that smell should have reverberated through the entire half-mile regions of City Hall. I wrote this down. I said, yeah, you know, it's like he was found under the eyes of City Hall. Where's his phone? Why was it off? But where is it? And then why did he leave City Hall? Okay, so he didn't have enough drugs in his system, if he had any at all, to kill himself. Coroner didn't find a ruling it was suicide. Coroner didn't come up with a ruling that he hit his head and died of a head injury. He wasn't found in the water, so he didn't drown. Minnesota, right up there with any other state you can imagine. Probably Minnesota, Wisconsin, and New York would be the top three that have these suspicious water-related deaths. Pennsylvania's up there too. They have a few. But for some reason, and almost all of these victims are under 40. Now, I realize Wade just made it under 40, but he was under 40. So another question I had was, if he did disappear on July 7th, sometime walking down the road, where was he for 10 days? That's why I want to know, what was his date and time of death? Coroner can figure that out. But they did everything they could to avoid answering all those questions I just gave you. And I find that very odd. They actually made an effort to call his sister and call his common-law wife. And both the phone numbers I got, both were no good. Because I was trying to get some clarity at it. A couple of things I'm sure you want to know that I want to know. What I feel horrible about, I always do, is that Wade had 5 kids that relied on him, that he was type 2. How do I know that? Because of the statements by Tiffany, that the last thing he would ever do was not talk to his kids. But what overwhelmed him so much at 1:27 in the morning that he had to leave the building, walk down a lonely rural road? I mean, if you would have told me before I figured this out where it was found, I would have bet $100 that he was somewhere deep in those swamps, laid out dead, not next to a pond, in amongst high grass, at a city hall in Minnesota. You see, to me, that's almost like, okay, we're going to put it wherever we want. We're going to put it right there. I find it really weird. I'm sure you do too. So thanks for being here. This fits almost every case in Missing 411, a sobering coincidence. And many of the cases in that book are from Minnesota. So you can get it on our site, NA, like North America, NABigfootsearch.com. Lastly, kindness. We're in very, very unusually tense times. Everybody needs to take a deep breath and remember, hey, we all had a mom, we all had a dad that loved us. And deep down, we're all good people. And when you see somebody who's in distress, think about yourself in that position. You'd want to help. You'd need help. And do that honorably thing and help someone. It's the kindness revolution. Paulides out.